the Torah that I wanted to share with you today has really been a guiding light for me for many, many years. And we look at Moses, who in this week's Parsha, this was almost his downfall. And you got to love the Torah that our heroes are not perfect. Our heroes have struggles, our heroes have ups, and our heroes have downs. And these heroes are there as life lessons for us to continue to study them, because the struggle of man and woman 3,000 years ago, not much has changed. Just the context has changed, just the technologies have changed, but our souls are the same souls, and this world is the same world, and people haven't changed much. The world really hasn't fundamentally changed much. There are still bad guys that are trying to control us, and there are good guys that are fighting for freedom. And Israel is this beacon of light surrounded by dictatorships, and who knows what's going on in Europe, which is, of course, always at our throats. And there's just this eternal battle between light and darkness. And the Torah gives us so much guidance of how to navigate this world. And so we don't know that much about Moses. So what we do learn, we should pay close attention to. The first thing we know about Moses is his good traits. We know that he's the humble of all men, most humble of all men. He's not the wisest, he's not the strongest, he's not the smartest, he's the most humble. And the most humble allowed him to channel the Torah without ego. Wasn't his opinion. He was a direct conduit to give over the 10 commandments, to give over the ways of God in the world. And his humility, it didn't mean that he thought low of himself. He just wasn't thinking about himself at all. His life was just dedicated to Israel and to God. And that's what it is to be humble. It is not to think less of yourself, but to think about yourself less. And he never thought about himself. He was just committed as a servant of God to the people of Israel to bring that light into the world. So that was sort of a gift that he was given. I don't think that Moses had to work on that. He was just given a gift to be humble. And there's some people that are given gifts and they're very intelligent. They have high IQs. There's some people that have a gift and they're very courageous. That's just in their nature. And they have, everyone has their own gifts, and everyone has their people that are loving, people that are giving. And at the same time, we have gifts. And at the same time, we have what we call our Tikkun. We have what we have to fix in this world. And we are given that as well. And you can follow the Tikkun that Moshe Rabbeinu has really from the beginning of the story. Moses encounters the burning bush in chapter 3. And in chapter 4, he reveals to God his weakness. And in chapter 4, if we can get it up on the screen so we can read it together, something marvelous happens. And Moses said unto the Lord, My Lord, I'm not a man of words, neither yesterday or the day before, even now that you have spoken unto your servant. I'm heavy of speech and heavy of tongue. And so from here, don't keep the screen up, please. So from here, we see Moses is like, listen, you're asking me to be the spokesman, to go to Pharaoh, to go to the nation. I have a heavy speech. Now, it's unclear what that word means. The Midrash says maybe he had a lisp, a speech impediment, but maybe he just meant like he doesn't have the right words. He's not a man of words. He's not good at speaking. I remember there was one time where a good friend of mine in my old community, Neve Daniel, his wife was suffering from cancer. And eventually, it was such a long, painful story. His wife passed away. And then it was the Shiva, the 7 days where you go and you comfort the people. And I went.
Oh, Jeremy, you're not telling this story, are you?
I'm telling this story because I feel like it's a little bit of a weakness that I have. I'm not good with words in important situations. And it's okay. And he's like, he's not Ari, but he's a dear friend of mine. And I wanted to go after the Shiva. Of course, I went during the Shiva, but after the Shiva, I feel like it's a special time because the house is now alone and they're just kind of like with their own grief. So it's good to go visit them, especially after the first 7 days. And I knew that he loved Tehila's meatballs. He would always come over for Shabbat and go, Tehila, your meatballs are the best meatballs. We love your meatballs. Tehila does make very good meatballs for Shabbos. And so I said, Tehila, here's what we should do. You should make him his favorite meatballs, and I'll bring it over. And then he won't have to make dinner for him and his kids. We'll just bring over meatballs for them. And so I got there, and it was the day after the Shiva, a couple of days after the Shiva. I don't exactly remember, but I know I was the only one there. He opens the door, and I see my friend, and I freeze, and my eyes start to water up because I see that he's in a lot of pain still. And I'm a very sensitive guy in that way. And I didn't know what to say, but he sees that I'm I love him. And I say, at least you have meatballs. I actually said that. I said, at least you have meatballs. that is the least comforting, dumbest thing. I don't know why I said that. I went home to Tehila and I'm like, Tehila, he opened the door and I said, at least you have meatballs. Like, what kind of comfort is that? That is the dumbest thing I've ever said. I'm just not good with words in those kind of situations. I'm like Moses. I just like, oh, it doesn't come out. And the guy happens to be in the media. He works in the media. He was so touched by me saying, at least you have meatballs. He wrote an entire article called At Least You Have Meatballs. And he said how much it touched his heart that even dumb friends like me had such good intentions, but didn't exactly know what to say. But it was like from my heart, we just wanted to comfort him and love him. And like Moses, like, I just, what can I do? I'm not a man of words. So I don't know what that meant by Moses, that he had a heavy speech. But what he's telling us clearly is speech is not his gift. It's like his tikkun. And he's like, God, I'm speaking to you right now. And it's not like you fixed me. You'd think a direct encounter with the God of Israel, I would be speaking like an orator of the highest order. I'm talking to you right now, God, and I'm still with this problem with my speech. It was bothering me yesterday. It bothered me before. And as I'm talking to you, it still bothers me. And then if we could put the slide up, God has a beautiful answer to Moses. And God says to Moses, Moses, and the Lord said unto him, who has made man's mouth? Pray tell. Who do you think gave you that speech impediment, Moses? I made your mouth. I know exactly your strengths. I know exactly your weaknesses. I made you this way. And I'm telling you, with your weakness, I want you to be the spokesman. I want you to rally the troops. I want you to go and speak before Pharaoh. I know your strengths and I know your weaknesses. I made your speech impediment, and now go. And here we are now, years later, we're in the desert, and Moses once again is commanded, I want you, Moses, to use your mouth, and I want you to speak to the rock. And Moses doesn't speak to the rock. He's heavy of speech. This problem that he has comes back later on in the story, and they say it was that thing that happened around that rock and his lack of speech that did not allow him to go into the land of Israel. And now there are many understandings of what he said. Was it what he said to Israel? Was it what he said to the rock? Was it lack of speech? Yes, speech, no speech. But speech was the downfall there. He was commanded to speak to the rock, and he doesn't speak to the rock. And then God says, oh, well, with that, we know that Moses did not enter into the land of Israel. And then we see that, like, okay, well, he's struggling with this tikkun. And then at the end of his life, although he doesn't go into the land of Israel, Moses gives the greatest speech ever known in human history. And it's called the book of Deuteronomy. It's called the book of Devarim, the book of words, the book of his speech. And it is the greatest, most powerful speech, the most impactful speech in world history. He stood before the nation and he gave over the book of Devarim as his last act before he died. And there's something very beautiful about that Moses started off his journey heavy of speech. He ends off his journey giving the greatest speech in human history. But in the middle, you see that he still does not, that was his weakness, and he fell and he was punished, and he never makes it into Israel. And so what is all of that teaching us today? So it's good to know your strengths, because all of us have gifts. God gave us all gifts. Tehila has a gift. She makes great meatballs. That was just given to her. She makes the best meatballs. But she also has things that are like, need to be fixed. All of us do. And so one of the most important works in our lives is twofold. One, to really know what are the gifts God has given us. Most people know that God has given them many gifts, but if you ask them on the spot, what's your gift? They won't necessarily know how to answer that. That's something that you really need clarity on. What are your gifts that God gave you to help build the kingdom? That's really what it's there for. What gifts did he bring to make this world better, to make yourself better, to bring a new light into the world? What are the gifts? And the second, arguably more important, is what is your tikkun? What is the thing that God brought into your life that's there? And it's not just a one-time struggle. No. The tikkun is something that comes back and comes back and comes back again, just like with Moses. The story of Moses is teaching us about ourselves, that all of us have gifts and all of us have tikkunim. And so you need to do a little bit of soul searching and think, what is the thing that I keep on stumbling upon? What is that thing that's like this baggage that I keep carrying with me that is not allowing my soul to fully be expressed in the world? That's not allowing my light to come in the world, that I keep on sabotaging myself, or that thing is sabotaging me? What is my tikkun? And the way to find that is exactly that. It's literally to sit at the edge of your bed and ask, God, what is the thing that I'm doing that is hindering my progress? What is the thing that I need to fix? What is the thing that I need to fix? What is it? And if you ask and you wait and you think and you meditate and you lehitbonen, you really like go through a soul searching, a cheshbon nefesh, a soul calculation, you will arrive at an answer. Now, it really could be that the answer may not be the ultimate answer. It doesn't matter. Start working with the light that's been given to you. Start fixing that. And then, it could be you'll reveal a deeper level of tikkun that you couldn't have known without going through the first stages. And so Moses sees like, okay, I have this speech impediment. I have this problem with my speech. And ultimately, even though Moses doesn't go into Israel, he lives out a wonderful example of someone that was struggling with his speech. Ultimately, even after his downfall, still stood up and gave the greatest speech in human history. And so may we all be blessed to know our gifts, to know our tikkun, and then to take the steps to slowly etch away, chisel away to like fix that within us to really bring our light into the world. And so may you all be blessed with that, finding your gifts and finding your tikkun and then taking it to the next level. Amen.